Unit 1, page 57, exercise 62.
Bully. Bully.
Грозить.
Polysyllabic.
Многосложный.
Petulant.
Дерзкий, нахальный.
Repudiate.
Отказываться.
Expostulation.
Протест.
Expostulation.
Revelation from George Marx. George Marx was born in 1912 in Hungary. He studied law and received his doctorate in Budapest University. He became a journalist and was sent to London as a correspondent. He came for a fortnight but stayed on and made England his home. During the Second World War, he broadcast for the BBC Hungarian service. After the war, he continued working as a critic, broadcaster, and writer until his death in 1987. The language. When I arrived in England, I thought I knew English. After I'd been here an hour, I realized that I didn't understand one word. In the first week, I picked up a tolerable working knowledge of the language, and the next 7 years convinced me gradually that I would never know it really well, let alone perfectly. This is sad, my only consolation being that nobody speaks English perfectly. Remember that those 500 words an average Englishman uses are far from being the whole vocabulary of the language. You may learn another 500 and another 5,000 and yet another 50,000, and still you may come across a further 50,000 you have never heard of before, and nobody else either. If you live here long enough, you will find out to your greatest amazement that the adjective nice is not the only adjective the language possesses, in spite of the fact that in the first 3 years you do not need to learn or use any other adjectives. You can say that the weather is nice, the restaurant is nice, Mr. So-and-so is nice, Mrs. So-and-so clothes are nice, you had a nice time, and all this will be very nice. Then you have decide on your accent. You will have your foreign accent all right, but many people like to mix it with something else. The easiest way to give the impression of having a good accent or no foreign accent at all is to hold on unlit pipe in your mouth, to mutter between your teeth, and finish all your sentences with the question, isn't it? People will not understand much, but they are accustomed to that, and they will get a most excellent impression. The most successful attempts to put on a highly cultured air have been made on polysyllabic lines. Many foreigners who have learned Latin and Greek at school discover with amazement and satisfaction that the English language has absorbed a huge amount of ancient Latin and Greek expressions. And they realize A. That it is much easier to learn these expressions than the much simpler English words. B. That these words, as a rule, are very long and make a simply superb impression when talking to the greengrocer, the porter, and the insurance agent. Imagine, for instance, that the porter of the block of flats where you live remarks sharply that you mustn't put your dustbin out in front of your door before 7:30 a.m. Should you answer, "Please don't bully me"? A loud and tiresome argument may follow, and certainly the porter will be proved right. Should you answer, however, with these words, "I repudiate your petulant expostulation," the argument will be closed at once. The porter will be proud of having such a highly cultured man in the block, and from that day onwards you may, if you please, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and hand your dustbin out of the window. This whole language business is not all easy. After spending 8 years in this country, the other day I was told by a very kind lady, "But why do you complain? You really speak a most excellent accent without the slightest English.